Hi, everybody. Let me get this. Let me stop sharing for a second. I'll look over here. Hi, I was just looking at the chat. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. I just want to make sure. Let's see. Oh, people are raising. Okay, most people can hear me. Perfect. Yay. Thank you. I'm gonna turn up my volume. I was just looking at where everybody's from. I see a lot of first grade teachers. A lot of first grade teachers just like me. And oh, from all over Pennsylvania, California, Ohio, all over the place. I am up here in Massachusetts. I'll go through in a little bit when I do my screen share. But let me just double check Hawaii. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Happy to have you all on this beautiful summer day. I know many of you probably are starting school relatively soon up in Massachusetts. I'm like exactly halfway through. So our first day back isn't until August 25th, which is the first day for teachers. And then the kids start on August 27th. We usually do a couple days back, and then we have Labor Day weekend, and then we kind of dive right into it. So I did think this webinar is going to be a little bit different. Usually over the summer, you might know that I will do like a little webinar, just a live time for me to kind of show up here and teach you about something. Typically in the past, I've done it with like writing strategies or literacy strategies or math strategies. But since I've been doing so much of that over on my YouTube channel, I thought that I would make this a little bit more casual, and just give you some tips for getting back to school, which I thought would be kind of fun. So it'll be a little bit more of a casual one. I don't think any of these tips are going to be like mind blowing. They're probably things you've heard before, but I thought it'd be beneficial for you and beneficial for me to kind of just get my mind feeling a little bit ready for back to school. Like I said, I know some of you are starting next week for crying out loud. So that might be more helpful for you right now. For me, it was like, let me think about what I'm going to do next month. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if I can do that. Um, Share screen. I will be looking over here. So you'll still see me, I believe, and then I'll be looking over here just because this is where my second screen is. Please, I'm going to open up the chat. I'm going to have it on this screen. So I'll be checking it back and forth. Parker, my husband, is here. So if you have some questions he can answer, he'll go ahead and type them in the chat to answer you. But in the meantime, I thought, let's get started. Okay, so this is going to be the first 2 weeks of school. And we're going to heavily focus on the first week, but I just wanted to kind of get you ready for the first 2 weeks. So in this training, I'm going to share a little bit about me. Oh, Michelle already asked. Yes. So I should say now at the end of when this webinar is over, I'm going to send a recording. I will send all the slide deck. Let me just make sure, right? Because I send out the email myself. So slide deck, the freebies, all the freebies I mentioned in this, I am going to send you at the end, and it will have a recording of it so you can rewatch it if you wanted to, or for those that have registered and are watching it on the recording in the future, hello, so they can check it then. Okay, so we're gonna just a little bit about me, just in case you don't know who I am, give you a little background. I'm gonna share 5 quick tips for starting your year off strong. I have a lot of freebies for you. Like I said, I don't think the 5 tips, I don't think are gonna be like mind blowing for you. I do think they're gonna get you in the right frame of mind, but I think the freebies are really going to help you, and I'm excited about those. And then I do have information about the SJT clubs, which opened up today. And one person who is here live right now, which let me just look. We have over 300 people here right now live. So one of you is going to get a lifetime access to the SJT clubs, to all 3 clubs and everything that entails. And if you're already a member, you will get all the money you've ever spent on it reimbursed. So it's like it was always free for you. So that'll be at the end. And then of course, we also have a Q&A. So any questions you have, like I said, drop them here. I will get to whatever questions I can see at the end. Okay, a little bit about me. I've spent over 12 years in education. The bulk of that has been in first grade. I started teaching in Las Vegas, Nevada back in 2010. And I taught for 3 years there, moved home to Massachusetts. I live here in Massachusetts. This is where I was born and raised. Taught for a few years here, And then when I had my own 2 boys, I stayed home for a little bit, and I was also a K through 2 literacy teacher for a year, and I started subbing, and in the meantime, I was making YouTube videos, getting my master's. I was always in education. So I never really, even though I, like, stepped out of the classroom for a bit, I was always subbing or doing part-time work, always creating curriculum. So and then a few years ago, this will be my 3rd year back in the classroom, and actually, I have to say stepping away for a few years and then kind of hopping back gives you a wildly new perspective on things. I think especially having my own kids, it's just been a really fun and exciting thing. So I'm very happy to be back in the classroom, 1st grade, of course. And let me just scoot this back a little. There we go. And yeah, I love it. I am so happy to be back in the classroom. And I'm happy to get to continue because after I got my master's, I was like learning all this information and really diving deep on the science of reading and all these new tips and strategies and thinking of everything I wanted to do that I would change when I was back in. So I started doing a little of that when I was able to sub and then getting my hands on my own classroom again. I was just thrilled. I live up here in Massachusetts and I am Letters and Orton Gillingham trained, which won't matter too much for this one, but for this webinar, but I like to mention that because I do take a lot of pride in all the work and research I've done, not research, but reading and everything I've done to keep myself up to date. Also, many of you probably know me from YouTube, so I did just want to share right here. I do have a YouTube channel. It is where I share every single week kind of what I'm up to in the classroom. And then also I started my YouTube channel, and I've shared this before, but I've started my YouTube channel when I was getting my master's because there is so much that is happening at the collegiate and graduate level, rather. So much research that's happening, and it's really hard to get it to teachers in the classroom in like a timely manner. So I thought that while I was taking those classes and reading the papers that are out and just doing all of that, I wanted to kind of take that information and pop it into YouTube in like bite-sized chunks for you to get your hands on because I know we only have, I mean, my videos are anywhere between 10 and like 40 minutes, depending on what type of video it is. So I like to kind of take that information and share it with you. And then since I've been back in the classroom, I get to share what I'm actually doing, which is really, really nice. A lot of you are saying you watch me from YouTube. I figure that's how most of you have found me. So thank you for watching. Okay, let's move along, my friends. So our goals for today, shake off some of those summer scaries and feel prepared for a new year. I'm not ready to shake off all of my summer scaries yet, but I am ready to get my mind kind of like, okay, what do I need to do as I continue to get ready for summer? And then number 2 is get ready for school. And then number 2 is to have a plan going into the first 2 weeks of school, which I hope you will have by the end of this. So 5 quick tips to start your year off strong. Number 1 is going to be to reflect. Now, I have 2 videos up here, and these are ones that I actually have shared on YouTube. The top one is from this past year, and that bottom one is from last year. And this is something I like to do immediately at the end of the school year. And I like to just ask myself, what went well? What am I going to keep? And what did not go well? What am I going to change? And when I do this, the bottom tip that I have here is don't overwhelm yourself. I think I keep that top of mind first. Even if a ton of things did not go well, I am not looking to change up everything. I know that is way too overwhelming. So really, I try to pick like 2 or 3 things that I would like to change or try for the new upcoming year. So when I'm thinking of what I want to keep and what I want to change, I'm thinking about the structure of my day. I'm thinking about my actual classroom layout, like what worked, what didn't work. Are there groups or areas that felt cluttered, felt too compact? Maybe students weren't able to move around. Were the desk layout that you had, were students talking too much? Were they, you want to ask yourself all these questions and how could you possibly change it if it didn't work? You also want to think about your daily schedule. One of the big changes I made 2 years ago is me and my team decided we did not have enough time in math during our math block. We only had 45 minutes and it was squished in between lunch and specials. So that 45 minutes was really like 35 minutes. And it was just not enough. We could tell that we didn't keep up with our scope and sequence throughout the year. We felt very rushed. And then I also felt like I wasn't able to get all the pieces of a solid math block that I like to teach. I was finding that I really had to pull them in and out. So it wasn't working. So that was a big change we made to our schedule for this upcoming year. Or sorry, for last year, and it worked great. So that's something we're keeping. So you think about your own schedule if you have any say in that. I know sometimes you don't, but think about where you can pull things from. And think about your own organization. You know, what was easy for students and for yourself? What were you constantly searching for things, or did you like the way something went out? Just kind of think about everything. Also, of course, you do want to think about your academics when you're teaching. How did you feel like your students did with reading, with writing, with phonics, with math? If there's areas that you would like to improve upon, go ahead. And then, of course, community and SEL. SEL is huge, social emotional learning. That is something I always am trying to look for and always trying to focus on as the year goes forward. So if you've watched the videos, you will already know what I decided to change for next year. I thought I would just make a quick list here of what I do plan on changing and what I plan on keeping. So, and you can see that some of them are like really simple. So for some of the things I'm keeping on the left-hand side, I'm keeping my chair pockets. They were great for my organization. I didn't like students having everything in their desks. So we had a list of what we kept in our chair pockets and we had a list of what we kept in our desk. They were also nice and durable. Another thing I'm keeping is teaching with slides. When I went back into the classroom, I had already started teaching with slides, but I didn't have everything in there because, you know, it takes time to make such slides. So as that was going on, I continued to add more and more slides to my day. Now, again, that's one, like, don't overwhelm yourself. There was no way I was going to make a slide for every single part of the day in 1 year. So I kind of took 2 years. I pretty much have that now. But take your time with it. And, you know, at the beginning of the year, you might, if you decide you wanted to make slides or whatever you decide to do, you might do really, really well with it. And then Christmas comes and the winter holidays come and you start to fall off the wagon. That's okay. Just pick it up from there next year. Any little bit that you do is going to help. I told you we kept our longer math block, and that was a win. My win stations is something I love. And so the way that I kind of laid out my win stations and the way we did them, I kept that the whole time. The use of timers. And again, I'm not going to go into the whole thing because I do have a whole video on this. Actually, Parker, if you want to link this video from this year, it looks like that one up there. You can go ahead and watch this. So you can get a full, because in the video I explain everything. I'm going to keep my digital calendar, and we also have a new literacy curriculum, which is going to be HMH into reading. And I piloted it this past year, and so that's something we're keeping up with. And then for changes, I need to add more social emotional learning to my morning meeting time, which is, I had mentioned in the video, it's so hard to, you know, squeeze in social emotional learning, which really should be like the whole part of the day. But with only 6 hours and limited time and, you know, minutes on instruction for every single thing we do, there's not really a block for social emotional learning. So my morning meeting is a great time to add that in. I'll talk about that later. And then I changed out the magnet boards we're using. We are getting rid of Heggerty. My literacy center rotation is something I did change up the last couple months of school, and I'm going to keep it. So it's kind of a change, kind of a keep. My writing block, I'll share that later, is very sadly being changed. I had no control over that. Changing my sound wall to align into reading, and then I'm adding time to my digital calendar. Adding time was one where I told you I had felt that when I'm thinking about my academics, my students totally got time to the hour and time to the half hour. But then as the year goes on, it's like they kind of forget all about it. It's just something that's not spiraled enough. So I thought by adding that into my digital calendar, I think that will help. So that's just an example of some of the things I thought of what I want to keep and what I want to change as I go into next year. For you, you want to think of the same things. Some of them might be easy. Some of them might be a little harder. Don't overwhelm yourself and be like, you know what, I'm going to teach math entirely differently. I'm going to teach writing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Pick a couple things that you can change. Lots of people asking about Heggerty. So the reason we are dropping Heggerty is because since we are adopting HMH into reading, we are using it's the structured literacy, which I really liked, which came out, I think, a year or two ago. And they have their own phonemic awareness included within it. Now, I enjoy Heggerty, and my students did well with it. It's supposed to take about 10 minutes. We could easily get it done in about 5 to 7, especially as the year went on. There are a few things about Heggerty that seem unnecessary. Research shows that the two main phonemic awareness activities you need students to do, or phonological awareness activities, sorry, I should say, are blending and segmenting phonemes. So some of the downsides about Heggerty were that it spent too much time, even though it's only 5 to 10 minutes, but it does spend too much time on skills that maybe aren't as necessary for teaching students how to read. So so that was one thing. And then the second thing was they didn't always align with the phonics skills that we were teaching, which is not really that big of a deal. But if you could get it to align, if we're teaching consonant blends, let's say at the beginning of a word, if you could get your blending and segmenting to align with that, that would be much more beneficial as we go into word reading and word building with those words. So because the structured literacy already has that with it, we are getting rid of Heggerty. Now, I will say the caveat there is that we are going to, we still have the manuals, right? So the only thing that we're not doing is, or not paying for going forward, is the online portal that has the videos and stuff, which we didn't really use. So we're going to use next year as kind of a test year, and we're going to try the phonemic awareness and phonological awareness that's tied in with the phonics for HMH, and then see how it compares on our scores. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to continue, we'll see what happens, right? And honestly, by the time winter benchmark gets there, for some reason, all of our kids like can't blend, can't segment, we might get out that manual and throw it back in. So we're going to try it. I did see somebody say, let's see, do we use the primary book? Yes, we do. And we used the newer one too, by the way. They came out with the newer one that was only, I think it's only 2 years old, a year or two old, and it did change some of the things that they wanted students to do way better. So that is what we did. A lot of people saying UFly is better than structured literacy. Listen, I agree with you. I love UFly. I purchased UFly's manual. I have it right here. I literally purchased it as soon as I possibly could because I wanted to go through it. It's fantastic. It is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, in Massachusetts, it was not one of the approved curriculums. I would use it in a heartbeat if we could. I think it's so simple, but it was not approved. So it's still not approved, and we had to choose something. So we did choose the Into Reading, and it's pretty similar. There's a lot of question of like, where did HMH find some of these things? So it is pretty similar, I will say. But yeah, UFly is great. No arguments here. Okay, let's move along over here. Like I said, I'm gonna keep answering. Wind stations. Parker, if you will drop, I'm gonna have wind stations is like a longer video topic. It does stand for what I needed. Thank you. And it is my favorite part of the day. I'm gonna have Parker drop a link to my wind block video on YouTube. It's like a 35, 40-minute video, but it explains everything about what WIN is and how I do it in my own classroom. So Parker, you could link that down below. Okay. Tip 2. My tip 2 is something that I feel very strongly about. This, first of all, has my schedule for next year, which I'll talk to you about in a second. But I keep my daily schedule starting on day 1. So starting on day 1, and I love this because it really helps my students and myself get the structure and feeling of the day. So this allows students right away to be able to feel how the day is going to go. And I should point out that while we keep the structure of the day, we will do our morning play and morning meeting. We will teach students phonological awareness and phonics. That will be the block. But what I'm doing during that time is I'm just going over procedures. I'm not actually teaching them any new content. So especially for the first week of school, and then the second week, I start to introduce some review content. But basically throughout the day, the schedule here that's on the left, starting right away, students will come into their desks on the very first day of school. I'll show you what that will look like in a couple slides from now. But they will come in, they will have their coloring page down. I'll introduce myself, but then once it's 8:50, or once it's time, really 8:45-ish, I'm going to pull students over to the rug for our morning meeting. And I'm just going to show them, and we have a visual schedule on the board. I just use like a little one that is on my board. It's a bunch of magnets, and I move a magnet down so they can see where we are. I actually have that. Let me write this down. visual schedule. That has been a freebie for a long time, but I'll include that in the email so you can use it if you would like to. It is editable, so you can add whatever ones you need on there. But basically, I tell my students right away, I'm just like, look, this is when every single day we're going to come to the rug for morning meeting. And I move the magnet. And then I teach them about morning meeting. Once we get to phonics, I say, look, this is the time where we move down to phonics. Now, and then I explain to them, I'm like, we're not going to do phonics right now, or this is what phonics might sound like. Here's some example activities of what we might do during phonics time. And then I'll probably go into a read aloud, which again, I'll share later what the actual first couple days look like. But throughout the day, I keep the exact schedule and I verbally tell my students and visually with the magnet, tell them each part of the day. And like I said, it really helps me too, especially since our schedule changes a little bit year to year, just with minutes and movement of things. So it really helps keep me on track and also helps my students understand how the day is going to go. One big change to my schedule this year that I hated, I actually shared this in that video where I go over keep and change. Our writing time is now moved to the end of the day. So from 1:45 to 2:35, you'll see at the end here, that is going to be our chunk of writing. And it's really only 20 minutes, and then it goes into literacy centers for 30 minutes. And writing used to be where grammar is, 10:05 to 10:15. No, that's not right. It used to be where reading is, sorry. So it used to be at the beginning of the day, which I loved because writing is the hardest thing we do as a first grade or as a K through 2 teacher. It's the hardest thing our students have to do. It's the hardest thing to teach. It takes the most mental capability to be able to do, but it did get moved. And that's because of our new curriculum and just time on instruction. So what they did is they took the 30-minute writing block and they broke it up into 10 minutes of grammar, which we'll do before snack, and then 20 minutes of writing, which is how I'm supposed to teach my writing in 20 minutes. I don't know. We will find out this year. And then I'm supposed to go into 30 minutes of literacy centers. So I'm not thrilled about that, but that was a big change that happened this year. So that's going to be a big, if you follow my YouTube videos throughout the year, I'll probably complain about it a lot, but also with my complaining, I'm going to find some solutions. So I will share with you how I'm going to work through that. So yeah, a couple things on here. People are asking, can you please share what is involved in morning play before morning meeting? So typically in my classroom, I will always have my students come in, and this is like unstructured playtime. My students trickle in between 8:25. They come into the building at 8:15, but they all go to the gym. And then at 8:25, they can come down to the classroom. So because of that, because they're kind of held in the gym for a little, it's nice because most of my students will arrive between 8:25 and 8:30. So when they come into the classroom, there's usually Play-Doh on their desks, or we will do kind of morning bins where students can go ahead and play just unstructured, right? This is a great time for me to see what students are interested in, who's gravitating towards who, and what their play kind of looks like. So it's really just about 10 minutes. At around 8:40, I play a cleanup timer. That's 2 minutes on the board, and then they come onto the rug and we start our morning meeting, which I will share in a little bit. How are you changing up your writing expectations given your new time constraints? Great question. I don't know the answer to that yet, Laura. I would love to know the answer. I just don't. So I don't think I'm going to actually figure that out. I'll probably need, honestly, a couple weeks of working through it and looking at the lessons. Also, the HMH, if you do use HMH into reading, the writing lessons are not great. We are adopting version 3, which is new. We haven't even gotten to see it yet. So that's a little concerning, but it was supposed to beef up the writing portion. So we'll see how that goes. I will say I use a ton of my own writing slides that I made. I'll share those with you later so you can see what they look like. And I will absolutely still use, especially the beginning of the year and the foundational ones, to get students understanding what a sentence is, what a sentence should look like, sound like, all the parts of it, and all of that. I will absolutely do that. Yes, I'll share my cleanup timer too. Just writing anything down to share in my email after cleanup timer. Okay, so I'm not sure version 3 added. I know, Tammy, that's my concern too. So We will see. But yeah, so my biggest tip for number 2, and this is my favorite tip, honestly, that I think I have on here, and it is just to keep your schedule from day one. Helps me, help the kids. We move along. And then so any activity that I plan, which you'll see I have a whole plan for you, any activity I plan fits in to those kind of time constraints. So let's see. Tip 3. Tip 3 is everything in K through 2. Probably everything in every grade, honestly, but I really only know K through 2. So everything in K through 2 is a procedure. So when we are thinking of procedures to teach in first grade, I have a whole list here, but don't worry, this is a freebie for you, so you can have this printout. And these are just things that I was thinking of in terms of what I teach in first grade, or really K through 2 in general. But you want to ask yourself, how do I want my students to blank? Really anything. Every single thing you want your students to do, you want to explicitly teach them how to do it. How do they unpack and enter the room? What do they do during morning time? Now, I shared that my students use morning bins. That does not mean that I'm just going to lay out a bunch of morning bins and say, have at it. I explicitly teach them how to use each tool. So on day 1, they'll have Play-Doh and a coloring sheet, and I will explain, what that looks like. When we introduce brain flakes or Jenga blocks or magnetiles, every time I introduce a new bin, I explain to them how they can be used and how they cannot be used. We cannot throw them around the room. My poor magnetiles, after we build something, we cannot just crash it so hard because they can break. Same with Legos, and we show them where it goes, how to clean them up, and where to put it back. Every single thing is explicit. Morning time, snack time, pack up, every single academic area. So in this printout, you'll see I kind of have it separated by category. We have behavior, classroom routines, transitions, and then how we work. So in terms of behavior, I'm looking for attention getters. I have a bunch that I typically do. I don't know if I ever, oh, after Magnetiles, they turn into Godzillas. I know. And I'm like, those are expensive, people. They're very expensive. They're going to break them. In terms of attention getters, my favorite one, I don't know if I've shared this on YouTube or not. I'm sure I have. But I always say, everybody do what I'm doing. And then they go ahead and copy and they sing back, everybody do what I'm doing. I definitely shared this. Or I'll say, everybody do what I'm doing. And I'll typically do 2 louder ones where I'm singing it like that in some sort of active movement. And then the third one is always, everybody do what I'm doing. And I whisper it, and I want to see if they can then match my body and match my movement. So the first 2 might be kind of a bigger movement, especially if they're loud and I'm trying to get their attention, and then they repeat after me. And then that third one is like maybe shoulders are back. Everybody do what I'm doing. And they just copy what I'm doing. And by that one, they're a little bit more calm. Their voice is matching my voice, and they know that they're supposed to be turned towards me. There's a million attention getters. I use quite a few. That's my probably most used one, just because it works all the time. And it's fun, and I can switch it up every time. In terms of behavior, of course, you're teaching rug expectations. What do you want them to look like and sound like on the rug? What are they looking like and sounding like at their desks? If you have noise level charts or when they should use each noise level, you want to go over it. Bathroom, lunch, hallway expectations, classroom rules, and logical consequences. I'll share a little bit more about that later and what that looks like for my classroom, but of course you're going to want to go over what those classroom rules are. In terms of routines, we're talking about your morning routine, classroom jobs, pencil sharpening, tissues. I'm definitely missing some, but I tried to think of as many as I could. Asking to leave for the nurse, the bathroom, the water. I just have my students raise their hand. So I will be honest with you, the last couple of years I teach in a pretty small town. So my classroom sizes vary between 16 and 18, which is very small. I have taught in classes, before you throw stones, I have taught in classes up to 26. And so when there were 26 students, I did have like hand signals for, 1, 2, or 3, or bathroom sign, just to manage things better. So I can't pick that for you. There's many different things that you might choose to do, but whatever you choose to do, you want to explicitly teach it. For transitions, we have lining up, walking in and out of the classroom, recess, lunch. What does it look like when we go from tables to the rug, from the rug to the tables? Your brain breaks. When do we use them? What does it look like when we use them? Things like that. Sharon, yeah. So usually the more students you have, she's saying she had 31 and used a lot of nonverbal cues. Absolutely, right? The more kids you have, you need to keep things moving. You can't have everybody raise their hand and ask for something. And then in terms of the last one, I put how we work. That's going to come into play usually starting on day 3. And for how we work, I'm really going over what it should sound like when we're working independently, what it looks like when we're working in a group, what it looks like when they're working with partners, their classroom supplies, where does everything belong, what goes in their desks, what goes in their chair pockets, if they're done early, what's the expectation? Exactly like Laura said, you never assume that they know how to do anything. And that is basically the name of the game. Every single thing they do in my classroom, I'm explicitly teaching. And I'm explicitly teaching them all throughout days 1 through 5. And then I'm going ahead and I'm reviewing it and modeling it and redoing it over and over and over for those first few weeks of school. And then again, a month in, and then again in December, and then again in April. And then by May, they kind of have it, but they just choose to ignore it. That's the way it goes. All right, let's see. So I do have, before I go into that real quick, I do have that printable for you at the end of this, so you'll get that in your email. Okay. Focus on community. Tip number 4. At the beginning of the year, you really want to focus on community. This is a brand new year for them. You're going to have some students that maybe don't know other kids in the classroom, especially teaching first grade. They really only have taught, or they've only been in school since kindergarten, and they probably still don't know a lot of the kids in your classroom. So some of my favorite ways to focus on community is to do my morning meeting. Now, some of you might know that I just came out with my morning meeting slides for the year, and I'm so excited about it. It's something that I've done in my classroom forever. I've always had a morning meeting, and then 2 years ago, when I went back into the classroom, I started making morning meeting slides. And that's something that, again, it took a couple years, but now I'm almost ready for all of them. So I already have 20 days up now. If you're in the clubs, it's already there. And if you bought it on TPT, whatever you bought it from, you'll get the updates for free. So my morning meeting is comprised of 4 different parts. We always start with breathing. So some sort of breathing just to get our minds ready. In the past, I wish I had a picture of it, but I had a breathing ball that you could open up and close. And I would just have the class role model, the peer role model, which is one of my jobs. I would have them pick a number between 5 and 10, and we would do that many breaths. There's a lot of other breathing activities that we did throughout the year, so I added them in here. We have box breathing, candle breathing, bunny breathing, all sorts of fun and engaging ones, but just a good way to get us settled for the day. And then after that, we go to our greeting. The greeting is always just a quick and simple greeting where I want everybody to say students' names in the classroom, and they're just passing it along, right? They are greeting everyone in the classroom and just really kicking off our community well. After that, we go to the morning message. That, of course, is going to be editable for you to, in my morning message, I'm always saying what our special is for the day. I'm saying today's date, and I'm going over anything that I think my students need to know. Of course, if we have any sort of assembly or ziggle zaggle, which is like a difference in our schedule, I talk about it now during the morning message. And then also sometimes during this time, I will review something academic. At the bottom of the message, I might say, who can solve the problems below? Or who can retell the story we read yesterday, or something simple just to get them talking. Lynn's asking, do the breathing items have explanations? Yes, every single one. So you can't read it at the bottom there, but that breathing, the candle one or the square breathing, box breathing, it tells you exactly how to do it underneath. And then the last thing we have is our activity. And I have it set up, everybody does this differently, but I have it set up Monday through Friday. Each day has a different activity. So Mondays is always going to be share your weekend news. This is the time for students to get out whatever they want about the weekend. So you can either have them pair up with a partner, you can have students go around one by one, and they just share, get those ideas up. Tuesday is always going to be Tell Me Tuesday. So I always have students pair up and face a partner on the rug. And all of the Tuesday ones are going to be social emotional kind of topics. I'm going to ask how students are feeling. I might give them a scenario and ask how they would respond to it. Some sort of social emotional kind of topic for them to discuss with a partner. Wednesday is always Would You Rather Wednesday. And I do this specifically with stand up, hand up, pair up. So this time I will ask the question. This one up here is, would you rather only eat broccoli or carrots for the rest of your life, and why? And so I have all my students think of their answer, and then they will all stand up, put their hand up, and they spread around the room. And then stand up, hand up, pair up is just like it says. They stand up, their hand is up, And then they have to find somebody whose hand is up too. They give them a high five. They answer their question, share why. They make sure they both do it. And then they turn around and go find somebody else whose hand is up. So they're really trying to meet with as many kids as they can to share their answers for a few minutes. And yeah, and that's it. And then, so wait, that's Wednesday. Thursday, we do a 5-minute yoga break, which I just usually do a video that they can follow online. And then on Friday is a group game. So we'll play something like Buzz or Zoom, all sorts of fun activities. In my morning meeting slides, at the bottom of them, we'll always share how to play the game. So it's just really fun. How long is my morning meeting time? That's a great question. My morning meeting time, I usually do it from about 8:42. Let's say if I put the cleanup timer at 8:40, we'll say they're there by like 8:43-ish. And then we need to start around 8:50 for phonemic awareness. Typically on like some of the shorter days, Tell Me Tuesday and things like that, they are about 7 minutes long. I can do the whole thing, sometimes only 5 minutes. The Friday ones typically take a little longer if we're doing a fun game. And so maybe about 10 minutes, but I really try to keep things moving and grooving in my classroom. Amber said, it's stand up, hand up, and then pair up. So they pair up with the partner. Thank you. And then other ways. So besides, morning meeting is the biggest way. Oh, and I should say, people asked how long. At the beginning of the year, my morning meeting time is going to take longer, right? It's going to take a long time. I want to really teach kind of how it goes. It gets shorter as the year goes on because students know the expectation. That's going to be the same for every single thing that we do. So other things I do to engage in community and focus on community. I like to do a Meet the Teacher slideshow, which I'll show you in a little bit. But at the beginning of the year, typically on the first day, I do a quick little slideshow with pictures of me, pictures of my students, or nope, pictures of my kids, and some of the things we did over the summer. And that's usually my kickoff to them then sharing about themselves, doing like a little all about me paper or banner. We play some puzzles and we play games at the beginning of the year. I'll share a couple of those. A lot of talking to one another. I want my students to get to know one another. I want them to talk to one another during our read alouds. I want them to talk to one another during morning meeting. It's awkward for them at first, right? They don't really know each other too well. And not only is this a good time for them to talk to one another, but this is also a good time to teach how they should talk to one another, to make sure their voice levels are not going too high, to make sure they're not interrupting one another, everything like that. Lots and lots of read alouds for the beginning of the year, especially ones that focus on community, which I'll share in a bit. And then this last one is just a funny one. It's just the Jones kids. Something silly we do in my classes, I call my kids, they are my Jones kids. We have a weekly newsletter that goes to parents every Friday, and it's called Keeping Up with the Jones Kids. And I just share what we're doing in class. But when I call us the Jones kids, it kind of just gives us a little name. You can even come up with a name for your class. Again, it's something silly, but it just makes them feel like they're mine, I'm theirs, we're together for a whole year, and it's just special. Katrina, where does calendar fall in morning meetings? So I don't do calendar in my morning meeting time. Great question. I kick off my math block with calendar. So I use a digital calendar actually, I can share that too, because that is a freebie that I have, digital calendar. I'll add in our email. I do a digital calendar when students come in from snack time. They come over to the rug and they do digital calendar then. Somebody's asking breakfast, sorry. Yes, oh, so my students, like I said, they come into school at 8:15 and then they go down to the gym. That's kind of where they're corralled. But my students that get free breakfast, they go to the cafeteria. So they are eating free breakfast during that time. I've worked at schools where the second the doors open, kids are kind of trickling into you, over a 10 to 15 minute time span. And that makes things a little trickier in terms of like your morning time and procedures. But I really like the way they do it here. They have them corralled somewhere and then they all send them down at one time. So unless unless a bus is running really late, most of my kids arrive at the same time. So focusing on community. The next thing I have here are just, some of my favorite read alouds. I definitely read a lot of books at the beginning of the year. It's great for not only introducing different topics, of course, but also for teaching those procedures again. I want my students to sit on the rug. This is how we listen. This is how we look. If we're watching one of these on YouTube, because I do a lot of YouTube read alouds as well. as me just reading the books. We do a good mix. If I might have my students sit at their desks and listen to me read a book while I walk around and show it, I will have them kind of do all these different things so I can teach them the procedure and also kick off a lesson. So just a few for community. I love the name jar, do unto otters, our class is a family, have you filled a bucket today? For rules and expectations, we have don't eat our classmates, my mouth is a volcano, what if everybody did that? They also have the what if everybody said that book. We usually read both at the beginning of the year. School's first day of school and you get what you get. And then for mindset and kind of feelings, we have first day jitters, butterflies on the first day of school, the magical yet, and the bad seed. So these are just some. There's a ton of books that I like. Like I said, I will have this included. I have a lot of these books already linked in the slide I'm going to share next with you, but I just want to make sure, I'm just writing a note to myself to make sure that I have these books readily available for you if you wanted to know anything about them. When I read My Mouth is a Volcano, we go outside and erupt a volcano that I make with my boys over the summer. Oh, that's so fun. I love that. Do I have a template for the parent newsletter? No, I just write an email. I can kind of share what that looks like. What can we do after a read aloud because their writing is not strong? Absolutely. I do not have my students do a lot of writing at the beginning of the year, especially before I've taught them kind of anything like that. So typically after a read aloud, we're doing a lot of talking. We're doing a craft or a coloring page. And typically it'll be a couple of those things, but we'll do the read aloud first. I'm stopping, I'm asking questions. Again, procedures, do not shout out your answer. Please raise your hand. I want you to turn to somebody here and share with them. I'm going to put you in a group of 3. Share this, question with them. Share this answer with them. What does that look like when it's not just 2 of us? So we're doing a lot of discussion first, and then they might just have a quick little coloring page that they get to do with it, or a little craft that we do together. So definitely not a lot of writing, barely any for the first couple days. Yes, jitter juice on the first day, jitters. I have a little butterfly craft that we make for butterflies on the first day of school. Lots of cute little things like that, nice and easy. All right, and last but not least, my tip 5. Tip 5 is go slow and have fun. Silly tip, but it's true. You need to remember at the beginning of the year, slower the better, right? What I did for you, actually, first let me say, week 1, the first 5 days. And when I say week 1, because again, when I go back to school, we actually have 2 days of school, Wednesday and Thursday. And then we have Friday before Labor Day off. And we have Monday, which is Labor Day, off. So we kind of we dip our toes in a little for first 2 days. So when I say the first week or week 1, I'm talking about the first 5 days of school. I typically do this over a 5-day period, however that falls. And during week 1, we are mostly talking about procedures. We're doing crafts. We are talking about community building, playing games and puzzles. We're building expectations. I'm teaching students everything during those first 5 days. Once we get to day 6, we actually slowly start to introduce our curriculum. And I should, big caveat here, when I am introducing curriculum, I am not introducing anything new. What I mean by that is I like introducing my curriculum because, like I said, I've already now gone over 5 days of this is phonics time. This is what it looks like, or this is where we go when it comes to phonics time. And even though we're not doing anything yet during that time, they now know that procedure. So I'm like, okay, it's phonics. Where do we go? Day 6, I'm like, oh, okay. Here's some examples of things we might do during phonics time. I teach first grade, so I'm like, we might review some of these letters. And I just give students some examples. Most of the curriculum that our district currently has, that first unit is a complete review unit anyway. So they are going to get to kind of see what that looks like, right? They're going to just listen to that review. But during that review is really when I'm not going over too much academics, I'm really going over procedures. So I'm saying, okay, let's pull out our magnet tiles, right? The first day we get our magnet tiles for word building is going to be a complete procedure. I don't really care if they know what the letters are. I want to teach them how to use the magnet tiles. When we first take our whiteboards for dictation, I want to show them how to use that. Every little part of the day for week 2 is slowly introducing the curriculum and how we use those materials. So the big freebie I have for you is going to be this. I have 5 full days of planned out lessons or planned out like exactly what I do on the first 5 days. And everything, here's like a picture of day 1, you can see on the slide. Everything that I mention is linked for you. So most of it is, I will say real quick, like 95% of it is either something completely free that's maybe linked on TPT. Most of it's something that's mine that I have done before. There are a few things on here that are TPT products that are by somebody else. And I didn't want to like remake something. I just want to show you exactly what I use for those first 5 days. So you can find it there. And you can see I obviously didn't put it down by like timing because everybody has their very own schedule and they have their own blocks of what they're going to do. So I just simply shared the time block. So phonemic awareness and phonics, for example, introduce where students will sit during PA and phonics time. You might review a couple letters versus numbers. That's something I might do. I might throw a couple on the board and say, here's some examples of what we're going to do this year in phonics time. And then on day 1, we always read Don't Eat Our Classmates. And then we come up with our classroom rules together. And then everybody signs their name on the bottom. That's what I do during that time. When we get to reading, I say, okay, introduce where the students will sit. My kids usually sit on the rug for phonemic awareness and phonics, and then they might stand up and go to their seats for reading time. Or maybe if I do want them to sit on the rug, I would probably have everybody sitting and facing me for phonics time, and then I might have them go in a circle. I'll definitely have them kind of move their bodies to figure out where they're going to sit for the next part. And then we will read Butterflies on the First Day of School, and we do a little craft. So each little part of the day is completely linked. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Give me 1 second. I know I have that sharing over there, but let me grab it here so I can show you, because this was just a screen share and it's actually an old one. I see some things already changed. So let me just see real quick. Desktop, first 5 days and procedures to teach. Okay. I think you're seeing that over there. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm trying to move it to that screen. Here we go. Okay, I think you are now seeing my freebie. I think I just moved that over there. So on here, you will first see it's 10 pages. You'll see the procedures to teach in K through 2 that you can print out. And then here is what it looks like. So morning meeting, surprise, one of your freebies is I have a free full week of morning meeting lessons. So you'll just click that right here and you will go ahead and get that. Students will come in and find their desk, play with Play-Doh and or color in their name page. If you click this link, it's an editable coloring page where you can type in your kids' names. That's kind of what I have on their desks. I have a link to the books you're going to read. And then here's the butterfly window hangings that we make in my class. Now, I just wanted to, again, show you what I do. If you look at this butterfly window hanging and you're like, I don't have paper mache, I don't want my students to do that, that's too much work, get a butterfly coloring page, right? Just find something else, but again, keep it simple, keep it fun. It's not academic yet. When we go down to math, introduce where students will kick off that. Their calendar routines. Now, I didn't link this because I didn't think of it, but somebody in the chat had reminded me about my digital calendar. So that's going to be a freebie that I use. So again, I teach my students how to do the calendar during that time. And then we do our collaborative puzzles. That's a freebie that I have for you linked right there. During win time, I introduce what that looks like. I have my all about the teacher slideshow, and I have some examples here. And then same thing with writing. So basically, I have this for day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And each day has something different. Each day just goes over exactly what I do. And I'm telling you, I already went through my last 2 years of slideshows for days 1 through 5, and I copied everything down. Like I said, this was also helpful for me because now I feel like I'm ready for that first week of school before you can go off and do it yourself. So everything listed is there, I promise. And then I even gave some examples of what the slide might look like. I have that here too, so let me just click through. Here's just a couple examples that, like I said, they'll also be in the freebie. Somebody asked, yes, you are going to get an email. So in about an hour, you will get an email from me that has the freebies the whole PDF. It'll have any links, things that I wrote down, like my cleanup timer I wanted to share, my visual schedule, digital calendar. Those will be in the email, and then also a recording of this will be in the email. For people, let's see. Some people are asking, a lot of people are asking about when, so I'm going to include that video link. It was shared here in the chat, but I'll include it in the email. And I'll also share my small group literacy video. I think that would be helpful. Yes. Okay. But when we get to the Q&A, if I see more, I will put this down for you. So just a couple quick things that I want to share here. Here's some examples of my actual slides that I used during those first 5 weeks of school, 5 days of school. In math, you'll see listed on the freebie when you go ahead and look at it. The first thing I do in math, the first day, I introduce some of the different math tools we're going to use, and they basically just get to explore them in groups. So that math slide up in the top left corner, first, I'll tell you explicitly, I'll have everybody sitting on a rug. I go through each of those tools. They might not use all of those on day one. Maybe there's like 3 or 4. They'll use the linking sticks. They'll use the pattern blocks. I have a whole set of those math stack blocks. Anything like that, I will show them what it looks like. We'll talk about, again, how we use it, how we don't use it. And then they'll just get about 4 minutes. I'll put them in groups and they will rotate and they'll get to play with them. So again, we talk about toys versus tools, but we also talk about how today we're going to get to play with these. As long as we're not throwing them, we can build with them. We can have fun with them. We can do everything like that. So that's like, again, an example of fun. And that's actually what I do during the first 2 days of math. So we'll have different tools. We'll go over each one. We'll do the calendar, everything like that first, and then they get to explore them. Here are just some examples from last year's All About Me slideshow that I explained. So I just share a little bit about me, some pictures of my family. I talk about my kids. This is not all of the slides, but this is just some examples. Things we like to do. Me and Parker like to play board games. We like to go up to Vermont. I love to read books and go to bookstores. And then just some other fun examples are, let me just see here. I need to make sure. Okay. Some other fun examples are on, I think it's the 3rd or 4th day. I don't remember. Again, it is linked in there. We go over number formation. So they will get to practice number formation with some fun, just like a fun little YouTube video, some fun rhymes. And then I will pair students up and they'll each get a 10-sided die. And they will just take turns rolling that die and then forming the letter correctly on a whiteboard. Now remember, but I forget if I do that day 4, day 3, I don't remember. But whatever day I do that, that activity is less about if they can form the number correctly. And it's more about playing with a partner, how we roll our dice, and how we use our whiteboard. So that is the main focus there, right? We are going to get into, in about a week from that, we're going to get into our numbers 1 through 10 unit, and we're going to really talk about that curriculum. But this is more procedural based. Up in the top right, you see my logical consequences slide. That is something that that's like my classroom management structure. I saw a lot of people commenting on responsive classroom. I was trained in that years and years and years ago during my undergraduate. So that is kind of, I love that book. The first 6 weeks of school, the morning meeting book. I take so many tips from that. And logical consequences is a big part of that. So the 3 main ones we go over is if I break it, I fix it. And we talk about how that includes feelings. If I misuse it, I lose it. And again, these first few weeks I'm teaching you how we use all of these things. And so if you choose to not do that correctly, you don't get it. And it's also important to note that they always can earn it back. We kind of talk about that too. And if I don't finish my work, I must complete it during another time. And also the other little caveat there is if they don't finish their work because they're not trying their hardest or because they are goofing off instead of doing what they're supposed to. So when I teach that too, I give like specific examples and what that really means. And then the last 2 slides are just a couple of the slides that I teach about during my win time. During my win block, if you watch that video, you will see that I use 3 different types of activities. Students are always doing an independent activity. They're doing a collaborative activity, either with a group or with a partner. And then the 3rd one, which is not up here, is they are back with me. So during the first 5 days of our win time, I'm just explaining this is what independent looks like. This is what independent sounds like. This is what independent means. You are not working with anybody else. And then when I have students practice that, they're just getting like a coloring page, right? Again, I'm not asking them to do anything academic. They're just practicing being independent. Same with collaborative. Maybe they're doing a puzzle together, or they're playing a quick little game together that's not academic. They're just working on taking turns, what that sounds like, what that looks like, and so on. So I hope that makes sense. I have a lot of freebies for you. Included in those first 5 days, which I already showed you. The first link at the top of each one will be my good morning slides. Oh, somebody asked, sorry, I saw this earlier and I meant to answer. On the good morning slides, there were some cute little characters here, right? That just helps you know what day it is. So this is day 1. I have this little guy in the scuba gear and the little mask here. All of the day 1 slides have him on the bottom. And then when it gets to day 2, which would be Tuesday, it'll have a different person. Just kind of keeps them all together so you know that you're aligned. Cooperative puzzles is something I love doing. It is linked in there. It's already linked in the 5 days of school activities, but it also will be in your email. Cooperative puzzles is a game we play every year, and it's one of the first things we do together. And all you do is you put students in groups of like 3 or 4, and there's 2 rules. They have to be absolutely silent when they do their cooperative puzzle, and they can only use one hand. Oh, good. I see a lot of people have used it. Something I've used for years and years, and my kids love it. It's hard, right? And they also have to work together, which is fun. So I usually do this over 2 days, and I usually do it during the math block. And again, there's just different ones. There's the crayon box. They're all like school supplies. And I just laminate them first, print them out. You'll have everything in there for you. And then you cut them out and you put them in a bag. And once students get over there, they can take out their pieces. And again, they have to put one hand behind their back. They can only use one hand, and it has to be completely quiet. And they have to put them together. Oh, Michelle, I love that. She does the same thing, but with cereal boxes, like cereal box covers. So fun. And then the procedures checklist is also a freebie for you, which is all included in there. So everybody is going to get that in a little bit. Will your morning meeting slides be ready for the upcoming school year? Yes. So I already have the first 20 days out there. Now, I'm saying August in my head. They don't say August anywhere on them at all. So it's really just 20 days, and they're kind of summary themed little clip art figures that you can use whenever. So there will be 180 days worth of morning meeting slides, each with their own components for every single day. Like some of the greetings and breathing will definitely be reused, but not anytime within a month. So there'll be 20 days and then a new 20 days with different themes. So that will be how that works. But yes, they will be completely done. I'd say the whole year will be done by December, but there's already 20 days up there now. And as they get added, they'll get added to both the clubs and to TPT, which is where they already are. Okay. Oh, let me see. I think we're at the end, my friends. Okay, so the last couple of things I wanted to share is, as of today, the SJT clubs are officially open. We already have many new members. I think an email went out this morning. Everything that I have mentioned in today's webinar, everything in there, any slide deck, pretty much every single thing I share on YouTube, if I'm using it, any activity, as long as it's made by me and not somebody else, it is in the clubs. There are 3 different clubs. There's the SJT Literacy Club, the SJT Writing Club, the SJT Math Club. Those are the 3 main ones. I split them up a long time ago. I started with just the Writing Club, actually, and then we added the Math Club and then the Literacy Club. And we do have them separate just because at the time we were having a lot of like just math coaches, just literacy coaches, and they didn't necessarily need all 3. So they are separate. The best deal, of course, is going to be the all 3 clubs, and all 3 clubs, also something new that was added only a couple months ago. If you are a member of all 3 clubs, you also have access to every single thing I have ever made on TPT. So let me show you real quick. Oh, and before I show you that real quick, today and tomorrow only, the clubs are actually going to be 20% off. So the way it works is each club has its own price point, but they're going to be 20% off, and you pay a one-time yearly access fee because the clubs have been around for a long time now. There's a ton in there. Pretty much everything you need for an entire year of teaching is going to be in each of the clubs. So you pay access to that one time, and then a full year later, so let's say you signed up today, 7/21/2025. On July 21st, 2026, a year later, you'll get charged a monthly fee, and it's small. I think if it's I think it's $3.99 for the literacy club, math club, or writing club separately, and then $6.99 if you're all three. And that is just to continue maintaining access and everything new. Now, when these first started, a lot of people are asking, so let me answer this. When I first started creating the clubs, I was creating them kind of as we go. So every month I was adding new stuff. I still add lots of new things, but I don't do it on a monthly basis. I do it when I have them, and over the summer, like a lot gets added that's new. So yes, I definitely still add to the clubs, and I definitely still update things in the clubs. There are math unit slides that are going to be updated. I have a ton of math stuff coming soon to the clubs that I'm very excited about. There are already math teaching slides for many different topics in there. Oh, and then Parker's letting us know that to get the 20% off, you do have to use the code early20, all one word, early20. Let me make sure I write that in the email because I don't want to forget. Early20. That is a coupon code to get the 20% off. That's again for today and tomorrow only. So he linked that there. Let me just show you super quick. If you are a member of all three clubs, when you log in, this is what it kind of looks like. You have the writing club, math club, literacy club, and then this one right here is the non-subject specific. Kind of a funky name, but basically what that means is this is where the morning work is. This is where morning meeting is. I actually am coming out with this year, I have little mini units for every single holiday. And you can go ahead and all of those little mini units are going to be in that one. So everybody that has access to all three will also have access to that. And all that does is we were finding that I felt like, oh, if people are going to be joining all three clubs, and I hate that they have to go buy something on my TPT store still. Like, you know what I mean? They already they have access to everything. I want them to have access to everything. So pretty much anything that doesn't fall neatly in writing club, math club, or literacy club will be in that one right there. And if you ever have trouble finding anything, please let me know. Let's just take a quick look. Let's look at like the literacy club, for example. Each club is set up slightly differently, but over on the left-hand side is where you will see kind of how the club is set up. So for the literacy club, it's set up by phonological phonemic awareness, phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, and then we have the book bunch, bonuses, and video vault. Video vault is just going to be a bunch of my videos from YouTube. Bonuses, let's see, all sorts of fun stuff in here: phonics, poetry, book clubs, decodable sentence scrambles. For phonics, just so you can see this one, phonics is split up by skill. So if you're looking for something for digraphs, we've got a lot. You can also click on it over here. We can go to categories, phonics. This kind of lets you see a little visual. And then if we go down and do, what did we say? Let's do floss rule. Floss rule, it should have like a little picture of what it looks like and all just different examples. Write the room, task cards, anything you need is kind of right in there ready for you to go. Many of you know that over the last year, I came out with, before using HMH, we were using Foundations. And so I had created Foundations aligned slides for all of first grade. Kindergarten Unit 1 is already up. So my kindergarten friends, it's in the bonus section here. So if you go to Fun Phonics slide for kindergarten, the kindergarten weeks 1 through 12 is already up and ready for you. First grade's already up and ready. And then second grade is also being done this summer. So those are all in there. Anything you need is in here. For writing, we have a ton of slides that, I mentioned earlier. Let me just show you this real quick for writing. Go back to the clubs. For writing, something big that I worked on this past year was creating slides for a ton of my resources. I have had, these writing resources in there for a long time. So I wanted to make sure that now that I'm teaching with slides that I kept things kind of updated, right? So the same 10 lessons are going to be in here, but now if we go to, this is like beginning of the year, foundational lessons, everything you download is going to be a PDF. Let me open that up just so you can see what I'm talking about here. If this opens, here we go. Okay. So here you have 35 pages. This is going to have all the lessons written out like in teacher-friendly language. But then when you go here, you can click and get the actual teaching slides that go along with the lessons. So again, I try to make things as easy as possible, and I really try to update them for the way we're teaching now, right? So if you have specific, just real quick, if you have specific questions about, I'm a member of 2 clubs already, or I'm a member of 1, or I really want the 20% off, but somebody like I don't get paid until next week. If you have specific questions like that, please email me. Susan, actually, Parker, if you can write my email in the chat, susan@susanjonesteaching.com. And we can go from there because that will be really helpful and we can answer all those questions for you. Just to show you real quick, here's what some of these slides look like. At the beginning of the year, we are learning to write. I can use shapes to make illustrations. Here's some shapes we see. They walk through all the steps of I do, we do, you do, all sorts of different things. This is what I use at the beginning of the year for writing. I was saying to beef up any curriculum that I've ever used for writing. It never is as explicit as I want. Talking about labels, talking about how we sound out words when we don't know what to do, before we've learned all the phonics patterns, I should say. Identifying parts of a complete sentence. And again, always walks through every single step. Explicit teaching, I do, we do, you do, so on and so forth. So I have a bunch of lessons like this. I just mentioned those earlier, so I wanted to share. And then again, slides I have for math and games and everything too. So let's see, couple questions. Oh, we should do a freebie here, people, shouldn't we? Oh, here's a quick example, or we should do the giveaway. But here's a quick example of one of the math units that's coming to the club very, very soon. So very exciting. This one is for our chapter 1, numbers to 10. I, of course, typically I'd let you know, I make these slides to go with my curriculum. And then in order to sell them, like I'm not going to use examples from my curriculum because that's not my work. So I have to rework them, which is why it takes longer. So I make them for my own kids to match my curriculum. And then I kind of take them and fix them and figure out how I would teach them if you weren't using my curriculum. So, and just for example, my curriculum, we use Math in Focus. We use Math in Focus, yes. Okay, guys, it's time for the giveaway, but where? One second, this is in my way. Get out of my way. Here we go. First 2 weeks of school. Let's do our giveaway and then I'll answer any other questions. Okay, Parker is texting me right now. He put in, we had 369 members at one point. And that were how many people in here? So drum roll, please. Laura, you had the same thing, drum roll. Our winner is Tina Lopez. So Tina Lopez, you just won. You're going to get access to all 3 clubs and you will have a lifetime membership. So yay, Tina. I don't know if you were already a member, if you were or not. So actually, Tina, will you email us? I see that you're here. So will you email us, Susan@SusanJonesTeaching, and just let us know and we'll get you all set up. Parker will handle that in a heartbeat for you. So he will get that all set up for you. Yay, very exciting. Also, a couple other quick questions about the clubs. I do sell things on TPT and almost, not everything actually. I pretty much create now for the last 3 or 4 years, I've created for the clubs first. What that means is I am not looking to put things on TPT until I'm creating for the people that are in the clubs. That is why it's really important to me to always get your feedback and to connect with you. And so when teachers in the clubs are looking for a resource, that's usually where I get the ideas of what we need to make, that and what I need in my own classroom. So I'm always making it for them. And then I do try to put those things on TPT later when I get the time to do so. So I just wanted to share that. So like you will find a lot of the stuff on TPT, but it doesn't usually come until later. And still there's a lot that's not on there, specifically a lot of my writing stuff. The morning meeting slides are included in the clubs, Linda, but it's only if you're a member of all 3, because that is a non-subject specific one. So if you are a member of all 3, then you would just log in and you'll go to that non-specific category and they're already in there for you. And then as I add more, they'll be in there as well. So if for some reason you are only a member of the Literacy Club and you do still want to buy them, they are on TPT. Is the writing club appropriate for K and 2? Yes. So all 3 clubs, I know I am a first grade teacher, and I will say the majority of stuff I know is like perfectly readily made for first grade. The writing club specifically is definitely K through 2 appropriate. There are a ton of different units on the K through 2, there's a ton of different units in the writing club. Some of them are very specific for kindergarten. So that is, and then some are very specific for second grade in there. And then a lot of it is like personal narratives, for example, you're going to teach in kindergarten, you're going to teach it in first, and you're going to teach it in second grade. So you're just adding a little bit more for second grade and you're doing a little bit less in kindergarten. And all of that is in the club for you, if that makes sense. Rubrics are included for each of those different genre topics, and it'll be specific for grade level. So there'll be a kindergarten personal narrative unit, a first grade personal narrative unit, and a second grade one. Can you do a video on add that to my list? I've definitely talked about it in my weekly videos where I'm just sharing what I'm doing, but I can look into, I have a running list always of videos to make. So that could be an easy one to even just incorporate. Thank you for your pause. Oh, you are very welcome. Where do you find back to school activities in the clubs? Anything back to school related should be in the non-specific category. And I don't know exactly. Let me see. I think I'm still screen sharing, so I think you can see this. My clubs. If I'm not, let me know. Actually, I don't know if I am. Am I still screen sharing? If I'm not, let me know. I'm looking up over here anyway. Categories. I think it should be under seasonal, back to school. Okay, even if I'm not still screen sharing, it is in the non-specific subject, and then there's a whole seasonal fun, back to school, everything is there. Do I send home a daily behavior report for parents? No, not unless specified. I have before, based on my students that need it. So only when, I should say yes and no. When necessary, yes, and most of the time, no. Like not every student is getting one. Let's see. Why do you do WIN and literacy centers throughout the day? Can centers be accomplished during WIN? Great question. The WIN and literacy centers video will share that for you, but my short answer is WIN is what I need, and it is not literacy based. WIN is a time for students to catch up on anything. It can be math related, it can be literacy related, it can be writing related, it could be we need to finish up on something. Also during WIN time is when we have a block schedule at my school. So WIN time is when my students are getting pulled for services. Many IEP services are tried to fit there. They're trying to be try to fit into the WIN club when necessary and when possible. I said WIN time. And also literacy intervention, math intervention is also during that time. Literacy center time is very specific to literacy, and that's the only thing we're doing at that time. So they are separate, if that makes sense. I'm getting a lot of thank you, so I just want to say you are very welcome. I love showing up here, and I love getting to talk with you live. You can hear I do a lot more jibber jabbering, a lot more ums when I am live, but we're just here and having fun, so I'm fine with it. And I love that also with, I like adding in a fun live one with my videos every week. I do not do consultations. I saw a consultation, then I also saw about presenting. I presented a few times for a few different conferences. I'll be honest, I don't love going to in-person conferences. Well, that's not true. I love actually doing it, but it takes so much time and effort for me to go there, to do the whole thing. I try to do virtual conferences when I can, especially now that I'm back in the classroom. It just is a lot easier for my schedule. I typically like to present for the Educator Summit. I did not present this. I did last summer, and I've done 2 winter Educator Summit conferences that I've loved. I didn't do this summer only because the scheduling didn't work out. I wasn't able to get a presentation in time. So I was not at this summer's one, but if you do still want to go to it, if you just Google the Educator Summit, they always have tons of great sessions. I really enjoy that company, and I enjoy the presenters. I really respect them a lot. If you're always looking for a quick little one where, and they do give at the Educator Summit, they do give like a certificate of attendance, a PD one, so you can check with your district to see if they'll count it. But the Educator Summit, if you use the code Susan, you should get some sort of discount too, just FYI. Even though I didn't do this summer's one, you should still get a discount on it. And I am presenting next winter. I already told them I would, and I'm very excited about it. I can't share what session yet, but I'll tell you about that more. Advice for first year teachers. Yes, I actually had we did a Q&A. I did a Q&A video a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the questions. My advice for first year teachers is honestly, breathe. I know that's like so silly, but listen, you're going to make so many mistakes. You are going to mess everything up. So It's fine. Go slow, breathe, but also try to enjoy your students. That's like my biggest, try to enjoy your time, try to enjoy the kids. Try to remember why you wanted to be a teacher. Um, because it's just so hard. It's so hard. Find your people, find some friends, and really just, give yourself so much grace. This is really how it comes. I have been teaching for 12 plus years. I feel like I know a lot about teaching. I feel like I'm constantly researching how to be a better teacher, and I am nowhere close to being, the best teacher I could possibly be. And that's just by giving myself grace and wanting to get better a little bit at a time every year. So know in your first year you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and know that that is a-okay. Let's see. Do you do any kind of gem jar or whole classroom reward system for behavior? So in terms of behavior, I typically try not to do any sort of tangible rewards um, until at least Christmas time. And what I mean by that is basically the whole first half of the year, we are talking just about logical consequences. That is it. We're talking about logical consequences. We are talking a lot about why we do things, why we don't do things. There are always specific students that might need a little bit more, and that is a different scenario. And then really around Christmas time and around, I do like usually one at Christmas, kind of one in the middle of that springtime, and then one at the end of the year. I will do a whole class reward where I'll draw like a little picture of a star and I'll say, "We are superstars." And we try to fill in the star and we get like a whole group reward, like a party or something. But I really try to stay away from things like stickers. I definitely give them out from time to time, don't get me wrong, but that's not my classroom management style. Just because I typically find that when that happens, we are teaching students to work towards the sticker instead of working towards what they should be working towards and kind of understanding why. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to go back a little bit to see when do you present the writing slide when your slides do not align with the curriculum? Great question. I don't do the curriculum during that time. Not ideal, but I have always, and my whole team will kind of look through what needs to be done at the beginning of the year, and we will see. We always have to make decisions that are best for our students, no matter what, right? So I will look at the writing curriculum. I have not looked at it for this upcoming year. I'd be shocked if I don't have to use some of my slides. And I will see, okay, does this writing curriculum teach my students what a sentence is? Does it teach them how to write a sentence? Does it teach them how to draw pictures? These are things I know my very recent kindergarten students don't know how to do. And these are things I know I need them to do before we can dive into writing a personal narrative or whatever they want me to teach. So if it is not included, I will just teach using my slides and I will do that. Or I will sometimes, there'll be a couple of the lessons in there and I will use the curriculum. And then the ones that do not align, I plug it in. So that's the answer to my question. Sometimes that's a good answer, sometimes that's a bad answer, but that is the way it is. Oh yes, Sharon uses EL education, if you followed along with the other one we piloted, and that also really lacked. Every writing curriculum really lacks in a lot of areas for K through 2. It's really sad. Yeah, that's why we make our own things, right? Okay, I think I have answered so many things. It's 2:18, so I do want you guys to be able to go. I'm going to, anything else I see, I can flip through the chat. What I'm going to do is any other questions that I did not answer here, either email them to me or I'm going to look through and I'll try to email them in the email. Patricia, I see you asking about rubrics. For writing, I have rubrics. I don't have rubrics for anything else. The first 5-day slides. Oh, could they be included in the clubs? Yeah, that's a great idea. I will plop them into the clubs in the back to school area. Not only will you get them in your freebie, but that way, in case you lose the email or anything in the future, I will definitely add them to that. Let me write it down. I say it out loud and then I forget everything. BTS first 5 days. All right, thank you guys so much. Oh, real quick, think SRSD. Amazing. Really, really great for writing. I'm trying to get my whole school to get a training on it because I think it'd be so good to overlay over any curriculum. Wonderful. Thank you guys so, so much. I hope you are a little bit ready for school and I hope you enjoy the freebies when you get them. And don't forget that if you do buy the clubs to use the code early20 to get your 20% off, and that will be only for today and tomorrow. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your summer and a wonderful, wonderful school year. Bye, guys. Still here because I have to figure out how to turn this off. Here we go.